Hello and welcome to BYJU'S IAS. Let's get started with our daily quiz. And it's a Sunday, but since the prelims is approaching, we'll singularly focus on current affairs on Sundays as well. So let's get started and look at question number 1. Which of the following statement or statements is or are correct? Number 1, the State Disaster Response Fund is constituted under the Disaster Management Act of 2005 and is the primary fund available with state governments for responses to notified disasters. Number 2, the annual central contribution is released in 2 equal installments as per the recommendation of the Finance Commission. Number 3, SDRF shall be used only for meeting the expenditure for providing immediate relief to the victims. Number 4, the allocation to each state depends on its population and utilization of such funds in the previous financial year. Which of these statements is or are correct? Statement number 1 is correct because the State Disaster Response Fund, which is the primary fund available with the states to deal with notified disasters, and these disasters are notified by the MHA, and it is constituted under the Disaster Management Act of 2005. Center also contributes to this State Disaster Response Fund, and this central contribution is released in 2 equal installments based on the recommendation of the Finance Commission. So statement 2 is also correct. The rules say SDRF shall be used only for meeting the expenditure for providing immediate relief to the victims of the notified disasters. So statement 3 is correct. And this allocation, the center's allocation to a state, it is dependent upon the population of the state. Higher the population, more the allocation, as well as the utilization of these funds in the previous financial year. Better the utilization of these funds in the previous financial year, more allocation will be provided to the states. So all these statements are correct. D is the right answer. What is the context? This is today's The Hindu newspaper. First installment of the center's contribution to State Disaster Response Fund has been released. And this has been released early this time because of the COVID-19 situation in the country. Now let's look at question number 2. Nagorno-Karabakh, often seen in the news as, is it a territorial conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan, or between Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan, or between Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan, or between Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan? It's a territorial conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan. This is Azerbaijan and here is Armenia. And Nagorno-Karabakh is a territorial dispute between these two countries. But why this question? If you look at the countries of the nearby Central Asia, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, there is a territorial conflict. We can say a border dispute between Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan as well. This is today's The Hindu newspaper. Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan agreed to a ceasefire after deadly clashes. So if Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan is in the news, nearby there is another dispute between Azerbaijan and Armenia that is related to Nagorno-Karabakh. So A is the right answer. Let's look at question number 3, but first up, let's look at the context. This is today's The Hindu newspaper, Public Buildings and Fire Safety Rules. Which of the following is correct regarding National Building Code of India? Number 1, it is published by the Bureau of Indian Standards and is a recommendatory document, and states have been asked to incorporate it into their local building bylaws. Whenever the states are passing laws dealing with the buildings, the safety standards of the buildings, they have to incorporate the recommendations provided in this National Building Code of India, which is published by Bureau of Indian Standards. So statement 1 is correct. Number 2, it specifies the technical requirements for special buildings, high-rises, educational and institutional buildings higher than 9 meters and those with an area of over 300 square meters. This is factual information and you must remember this for your prelims examination. Statement 2 is correct. Number 3, the code mandates heavy fire liability insurance compulsory for all public buildings. It is not yet compulsory, although there are recommendations, there are articles which say that National Building Code of India should provide for a mandatory heavy fire liability insurance for all public buildings. But as of now, since it is not compulsory, that is why the statement is not correct. So 1 and 2, B, is the right answer. Question number 4, which of the following statement regarding Remdesivir is incorrect? It was originally developed to treat hepatitis C. It's correct. It is an intravenous nucleotide drug, basically injected into the veins. But it is not the brand name of the drug used in COVID-19 patients. This statement is incorrect. It is basically a generic name. The brand name for Remdesivir is Veklury. And there are other brand names as well. What is the difference between a generic drug and a branded drug? For example, paracetamol is the generic name, but there are branded drugs which have paracetamol as one of its ingredients. For example, Dolo is a branded drug. Paracetamol is a generic name. So Remdesivir is a generic name. The branded name is Veklury, and there are other branded drugs as well. So this statement A is incorrect because Remdesivir is not a branded name of a drug used in COVID-19 patients. Now let's look at a previous year's question paper, Prelims 2020. Gandhi-Irwin Pact included which of the following? This was a pact between the Mahatma and Lord Irwin. The year was 1931, just before the second round table conference. This pact included an invitation to Congress to participate in the Round Table Conference. Statement is correct. It talked about withdrawal of ordinances promulgated in connection with civil disobedience movement. Yes, because during civil disobedience movement, the activities of the Congress party were declared criminal activities. So the condition included in Gandhi-Irwin Pact was these ordinances should also be withdrawn. Also, release of only those prisoners who were not charged with violence. This was also included in the Gandhi-Irwin Pact, but Mahatma Gandhi's demand that there should be inquiry into the police excesses, it was not accepted by Lord Irwin. That means statement 3 is incorrect. 1 to 4 is correct. B is the right answer. Because lots of police excesses, violations were committed by the police during the civil disobedience movement. There was a demand by the Congress party, there was a demand by the Mahatma that there should be an inquiry into these violations done by the police. However, it was not accepted. So 1 to 4 is the right answer. Now let's look at the fact of the day, Article 311. What is the context? Jammu and Kashmir government teacher dismissed under Article 311 without inquiry. This is today's The Hindu newspaper. Now Article 311, it talks about dismissal, removal or reduction in rank. What is the difference between dismissal and removal? If an individual A has been removed from the service, he can still apply for a government job. But if this individual is dismissed from the government service, he is disqualified for future employment under the government. He cannot apply for a government job at all. Article 311 talks about dismissal, removal or reduction in rank of whom? A member who is part of the civil service of the union, or who is part of All India service, or is part of civil service of a state, or who holds a civil post under the union or a state. Any such individual, if this individual is to be dismissed or removed or his rank is to be reduced, it can happen, it can be done only by the authority who has appointed this individual. That means if this individual is appointed by the president, only president can dismiss him, remove him or reduce his rank. If this individual has been appointed by the governor, only the governor or somebody who is ranked above the governor, which is the president, can dismiss this individual, remove this individual, or reduce the rank of this individual. That means somebody who is subordinate to the appointing authority cannot dismiss, remove, or reduce the rank of this individual. This is the constitutional guarantee under Article 311. And there is another protection. And the protection is, even if this individual is to be dismissed or removed or his rank is to be reduced, this cannot happen unless and until there is an inquiry. And there has to be an inquiry, and reasonable opportunity should be provided to this individual before this inquiry. Only after that inquiry is over can this individual be dismissed, removed, or his rank be reduced. But there is an exception. This inquiry may not be conducted in three circumstances. Now, which are these three circumstances? Number one, if this individual A, let's say for example, he has committed murder, or he is indulged in anti-state activities, terrorist activities, and based on that he has been convicted by a court. Based on that conviction, this person can be dismissed from the service. That means there is no need to conduct the inquiry because this person is dismissed or removed based on his conviction. There is another case in which this inquiry may not be conducted, where the authority which is empowered to dismiss or remove this person, which can be president, which can be governor, which can be a lieutenant governor, he gives in writing that it is practically not possible to hold an inquiry. That means we will not hold an inquiry because it is not practically possible to hold an inquiry. That means even without an inquiry, this person can be dismissed, removed, or his rank can be reduced. Case number 3, where the president or the governor is satisfied that in the interest of the state, it is not expedient to hold such an inquiry. In such a case also, this person can be removed or dismissed, or his rank can be reduced even without an inquiry. What has happened in this case? The lieutenant governor is satisfied that in the interest of the security of the state, it is not expedient to hold an inquiry. That means even without holding an inquiry, this Jammu and Kashmir government teacher is dismissed from the service using Article 311. That is it from our daily quiz. Thank you for being with us. Have a great evening.